Hey guys, what's up? Misha from GGD here. I know it's been a little while, and I have something that's kind of special. We have a Haunted Shores project showcase here. That's right, we've got Nocturnal Hours open right here. I'll show you the drum setup I'm using for this. I'll show you the plugins, how I mixed everything, just kind of a general overview, and maybe show you how I approach writing and arranging, all that kind of stuff. We could just do a little dive into this project. It'll be fun. I haven't opened this really since I sent it off for mastering, so it'll be kind of fun for me too. Anyways, we have a lot to look at, so let's just dive right in. So this song is called Nocturnal Hours, and that is actually a lyric from the Drapery Falls by Opeth off of Blackwater Park. This is very much a nod to that style, if you couldn't tell. There's a lot of sort of influence worn on the sleeve here. For example, the maybe you caught it, but which is what was the drummer's name? Is it Martin Lopez, I believe? Kind of his signature little move on the drums there. We figured, might as well just go headfirst into that style. Opeth hasn't really done this style in a while, so it'd be fun to see how we interpret it. And we went quite full on. In line with that, I wouldn't say that I was going... I love the sound on Blackwater Park. It's a very quirky sounding album. If you haven't heard it, I highly recommend it. If you're not a fan of Opeth, I highly recommend listening to them and becoming a fan of Opeth, especially that sort of era. And this is where we could get into a long conversation about which era to listen to. We don't need to do that right now, but Blackwater Park has a very cool mix. It's not exactly what I'd call huge or modern, but I think it holds up and it sounds great. The drums sound fantastic, and it was sort of this era where you'd hear more higher tuned drums and, snares that have kind of that Deftones pop to them a little bit. So I was going for something with that sort of vibe here out of the snare. Now the trick with this is always, these things can always sound really good soloed, but they can very, very quickly fall apart in a mix, especially when you have a lot of distorted guitars, as we do have here. So to avoid this getting paper thin, this is why I rely on things like the Franken kits. So what we've got on this project here, we have the trusty P4 kit, which I gotta say, this kit was, I don't want to call it an afterthought because it certainly wasn't, but it was done in the extra days of the P4 session rather quickly. I think Matt is so quick in the studio that he was able to get that album tracked, and there was a lot of extra days, and that allowed Nolly and Matt, since Nolly tracked the drums or with Matt for that album, that allowed Nolly to and Matt to really go in depth and get a lot of get everything right. This is such a trusty kit. I find myself just using it as the basis for a lot of my mixes, kind of regardless of style. I had a buddy asking me for something that was good for sort of country, and I sent this off to him as well, because I think it's just a very clean kit. It's almost like if Modern and Massive was a lot cleaner. The toms sound really good on this kit. I just think they're fantastic, and we were using the birch kick here. You have sort of the matching kick, but I don't know. This one's got this this sort of thud to it, which I like, and this is just one of my favorite snares. Just ever since I remember in real life, this is one of my favorite snares. But the Pearl reference brass, fantastic. And if you want a high tune snare, this is kind of a good starting point for that. We're using some of the cymbals. I really like the way that this China was captured, the Byzance traditional 20. This is Matt's stack. which you could do in the inverted mode. I really like it in this mode. I think this is just a fantastic sounding stack. So I'm actually using most of the cymbals from Invasion here, but I like the hats a lot. I think the hats were captured very, very well, and we got some splashy boys here. So we got, you know, a lot of the kit. That's sort of the main basis of the kit there. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll mute these toms and I'll swap them out for the Invasion toms, but for this song I thought it would be appropriate, more than enough to have these 4 toms. Now, if you're sort of confused as to how I have this routed, I do have a video showing how I stack these kits strategically, what works for stacking. For example, I won't stack cymbals or toms, but I will stack kicks and snares, and how this can be easily done in Kontakt. In fact, Kontakt is a very good program to do this sort of stuff in, and then how I can have that basically tied to my drum map here, so it's triggering all the appropriate things. You know, this is one of the beauties of Cubase, is this drum map. So taking a quick look at Invasion over here, you can see I have a smorgasbord of cymbals here. I've got another, like a tight stack there. That is just the trash stack there. And I really love the ride. I really love the ride. I actually think I have... No, I don't have the ride mapped on that one anymore. I used to have both, just in case I wanted one that was more subtle. You could do stuff like that. You can have 2 rides, you know? But for like a good metal ride with a good bell, which I always think with metal is very important, this is just fantastic. This Byzance heavy hammered 22-inch ride. I remember in person, it's loud. It is so loud and imposing, and it's very satisfying if you like to do a lot of bell stuff, like what Gojira might do or something like that. And what we're doing here is we're reinforcing a little bit, not too much as you can hear, but a little bit with this Star Classic Maple. And we've got quite a bit of reinforcement with another high-tuned brass snare. This time the Yamaha Recording Custom Brass. I'd never tried this snare until we did the Invasion session, but man, this thing's a little belter in real life. I really enjoyed this snare. I think 13-inch snares are always a little bit quirky and have a lot of character, and this one has to be one of my absolute favorite 13-inch snares I've ever encountered. Yeah, we don't need to go through all the cymbals, but what we have is a very, very crucial left China here, and I don't know, I like that. I like being able to have like these sort of complementary Chinas. So yeah, these generally sound like they're in the same room. That's kind of what you want to do, like by setting making sure these are going to the same outputs, but the room and the overhead and all that. That's something I spent some time doing. Again, if you want to know how to do this, there is a video where I show how I build my Franken kit. This is just one sort of iteration of it. And then finally, I have some reinforcement. I really don't think there's any kick there. It's really just the snare. There's something really magical about our first library, and this is the P3 snare. This P3 kit was actually captured. I don't think there was very much time there. That was kind of captured as quickly as possible, if memory serves. And the main snare, man, this thing just has so much character. So this is actually pretty loud. And interestingly enough, this is where I'm getting a bit of the body from the snare, which is allowing this to cut through the mix. I know it's a very long-winded way of getting to that point, but this is where we're getting that character. If we were to mute that, here it's just smaller and it's sort of losing that body. It's getting eaten up by the guitars because so much of the snare is mid-range, and of course distorted guitars are very unfriendly and they are eating up the mid-range as well. Everything's fighting for space. So this is sort of reclaiming that, and also not having the snare just be these higher frequencies. You're getting a bit more body that gets to come through. And it's also got this really cool characteristic that is giving it that sort of Deftone sort of crack and pop to it, which I really like. So yeah, obviously like snares are always important. I find that the GGD snares layer very, very well. And it's amazing how much you can do. I mean, we're getting a little sidetracked here, but hey, might as well get sidetracked. Let's say we swap this out for, I don't know, Another reference brass. That's kind of funny. What's low tuned? Maybe the Black Beauty. Lower tuned, I should say. And we could do the sensitone. Just completely different vibe there, right? When you have a low tuned snare, I think it really changes the context of a riff. It's not a bad sound, actually. It's pretty cool. But this is something I'll experiment with. It's something that I actually sort of have in mind when I'm choosing what I want to like how I want a riff or a song to sound. Like, I knew I wanted this to be a higher tuned snare for this song, and that's sort of what directed me to this. You've, of course, with Invasion, which is pretty handy. I'm not relying too much on this right now, but I've got this this snare trigger here, which here you can actually hear it here. Now these are one shots, and they're all pretty different. Again, I'm going for something that's a little bit more giving you a bit more of that Deftones pop and crack that I like. You could do a beefy one like Beef Town. That's one I tend to go for a lot. But on this one, the trigger, you can bring that up if you want. I'm not using very much of it. Just sort of dial it into taste, and that's good. Having some one shots in there. Our drums are so hyper sampled that you will always get a little bit of variation. So if you want to have this sort of constant in there that's working against that technically, this is kind of an effective way to have that in something that's pretty seamless. It is going to the snare trigger output there, but then that's all being mixed as its own sort of a snare bus. So moving along, what should we look at here? Okay, this next section's kind of interesting. I had this section go 4 times because, that's kind of what Opeth would do, right? So this part's interesting, and this is always a challenging thing. To get a kit that sort of works in all contexts. You want something that works well for the big open stuff, the heavy stuff, and has impact for that. But then if you're going to do double bass or blast beats, doesn't become too overbearing or sort of sounds appropriate for the part. And that's always a challenge. I think this came out pretty well, actually. And this is interesting. We're doing... This grid isn't lined up because we're doing triplets. So if we look at triplets, if you were to look at the time here, it's 1:35, but actually I think that works out to 2:10 or something like that. My math, I am not a math, so I don't know right now, but I think it's around there. That's a pretty good blast tempo. You can hear this a pretty good blast tempo. So again, relying on that bell. And this is just a regular split blast. I figured that's what you go for. One thing that you can do is you can always experiment with how loud you want that to be. So some people go sort of ultra realistic. Where it really is more of a ghost note because it's kind of hard to hit that, that hard consistently at that speed. Or you could go sort of more triggered sounding. Which is a pretty cool sound in and of itself, and then you could go, nuts. It's a bit much. I sort of just did this to taste. That sounds pretty good. That later drummer that Opeth had. We're talking a lot about Opeth. I realize. Didn't expect that. But that later drummer they had, what's his name? Is it Martin Axelrod? I think he played in Bloodbath. Phenomenal drummer. really, really good groove. This is kind of like trying to capture that. So we've basically got a shuffle groove going on here, right? Like not too far off from like a slow version of like Rosanna or something like that, right? And the trick to this is you're kind of getting this on the ride, right? So like the you'll use the tip. I have it a little bit softer here, and then you're gonna do the bell. If you just sort of imagine the motion that a drummer would be doing, have pedal check as well. And then what you're getting here is this interesting thing where you have pedal check, then you have the ghost note, and then you have that. So you're getting these three notes. This is the bell is the same as the pedal check, and you're basically constantly getting this 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, and that's where the groove is coming from. This is cheating here. Technically, okay, I just caught a mistake. Though for this album, we were doing over the top stuff, so it doesn't really matter. Technically possible actually, because it would just be a pain. But you know, if you're gonna do double kicks like that, you shouldn't have your pedal check going through. But you know, who cares? It'd be pretty fast there for 1 foot. Do we catch? Again, technically possible. Back to the blast beats there, right? So now we've got this riffy little part here. And again, kind of going with the Swedish vibes, right? We just got that. I don't know what you call this beat. Melodeath gallop, I don't know. And then here we're moving, we're doing the same split blast, but now we're moving to the hats here, right? Back to that. So here we have double kicks, and I'll do this thing. This is a bit robotic, I guess, but where, you know, when a drummer is playing, they're not always playing every beat exactly the same. So again, you could go for like this super robotic, like, you know, just over the top, which sounds really cool and it has its own thing, but I was going for more like realistic on this. So it's a little softer, it's not quite as upfront, and there's some variation. And sneaking some ghost notes in there, you know? That's kind of a cool little fill there. This leading right into the full-on blast here. This is just kind of black metal vibe here, right? And I've always felt like, you know, if you're gonna go more true black metal, I don't know, open hat always seems a little bit more appropriate there. Again, no rules here, just sounded better to me. And we're doing, again, sort of this hyper-real thing. Well, no, I guess you could do it on hat. You totally would do it on hat. But I'm using the open 3 hat as like the hard hit, and open 2. Which may not be the most realistic way to do it, because technically you'd want to do something more like this, but I was just trying to get more definition. I think that sounds a little better there. And that's what's important at the end. Another, I think they're Swedish. We're doing the Catatonia here. I don't think this is exactly what they do, but they always do something like that where they do the offbeat. I don't know the terminology for it, but you know what I'm talking about. You listen to Catatonia, you know what I'm talking about. They rule. I love the Catatonia beat. I'll throw that in sometimes. Right on the beat there. I think that's actually more like the Catatonia. So this section, you know, it's like that first beginning riff coming back, and like I'm finding ways of like keeping the beat kind of the same. You know, we have the halftime snare that's basically there. So how do we spice this up? Well, you could do all sorts of different cymbal, I don't want to say accents, but pulses. And that's all these different things. Just creates like little subtle motion. Again, no one's really gonna notice this, but I think now that I pointed it out, you'll hear it. And these are little things that you could do just to spice things up. For this section, I wanted it to groove, and we're kind of calling back to that shuffle thing. So it's doing that thing, but now we're sort of following the accents of the riff, right? So wherever we can, we're sort of sticking to that first reference, but, you know, obviously having to match the riff. And this is kind of fun. Again, I think Opeth does stuff like this, but I always like the idea of this. Like you have a section that would basically just be full. What this 16th note triplets, right? You know, which would be 16th at 210 or whatever. That should just be the whole way through. However, you know, I'll show you what I mean. Like it could be like, but I like it with just the gap. Kind of makes that accent at the beginning have some impact, which I always like that. Now we have Jurgen's awesome solo here. I'm gonna mute that just for a second because it's an amazing solo, but it is I could show you some stuff. Because this riff's pretty cool, and it's just matching perfectly. So you got this galloping thing here. And that's kind of a reference to that riff earlier in the song. And I'm doing this funny, like, kind of speeding up the kicks. I mean, I think at one point here, this is actually on sort of a straight. No, is it? Yeah, here. Yeah, we're sneaking those in. It sounds like it's accelerating. It's kind of quirky, but you know, it might be fun to play. It might be a nightmare to play. Who knows? Now this I actually changed. This wasn't like that. This was actually to match what's going on with the solo. And this used to go through. I cut it out because I was like, man, that's kind of a cool little, you don't want to hear what's going on. Yeah, because Jurgen's a beast, right? Here you could hear actually this was something that I did to like kind of make it sound. I wanted the beginning riff to sound like it was in like a modern Final Fantasy. But then Jurgen's solo goes over it. But Jurgen's solo is so good, it's like, that should just take the lead. But I was pretty happy with how this part came out. We got Mellotron, of course, because, you know, Opeth. It sounds like I'm covering an Opeth song at this point, doesn't it? But yeah, you know, that's kind of cool there. That's a total aside. But I like the orchestral stuff. I like to mess with that. Sometimes sections sound a little better than others, and I think that one came out sounding pretty cool. And this is pretty interesting because we have this sort of fade to black metal ending here. So what I did was I rendered this out. And then I have a black metal render that it fades into. Which is pretty funny. And then I just have some forest sounds here because, you know, it has to end in a forest if it's black metal. So that's a basic overview of the sort of programming and some of the concepts that went into writing this. It looks like for the guitars, these have been reamped at this point. So what I did was I don't remember what I used, but I know that, you know, to capture DIs I was using plugins like Neural, a lot of the Neural stuff. I've got the real bad boy here, but I was using the plugin version. This very well may be this or the Invective. These saw the most use on this this album. They're just very good. And these are old DIs. This is from when we actually wrote the song, but I kind of liked how sloppy they were. It kind of worked. So look at what's going on mix-wise real quick, because this video is getting a little long. And let's not waste too much of your guys' time here. Plus, I've done a lot of these sort of overviews. But yeah, you know, the kick always tends to have the most plugins. I think I'm just doing and undoing a lot of work at this point. I probably need to revise this chain. I guess before we look at that, actually, I've got a little bit of drum bus saturation going there from Virtual Mix Rack. That's kind of cool. I've forgotten to do that. That's a cool little trick. This can just soften out if you feel like your transients are getting kind of harsh, you know. You're not really gonna hear it in context now. Let's listen like this. Yeah, it's not a massive difference, but it can soften out some of the harsher transients, as saturation does. And just a little bit of a boost here, right? Just a little bit of clearer top end. It's nice to have your drums be nice and bright. So yeah, smash and grab is on everything as expected, and you know, I think this was done before I even had version 2. So just set it to kick and just aim for, was it minus? I'm not even getting that much out of here. Probably could get this down to -3 if we wanted. Do we have no saturation? Could always use some saturation there. What do we got here? Just taming stuff. Yeah, let's you know, so we don't go into too much stuff here. Let's just turn these all on one at a time. So that's smash and grab. That's virtual mix grab. That's Q2 right there. Tape saturation, which makes it kind of bassy and clunky. R bass, which everyone says don't use, but I don't know, I like it. Decap for more saturation. Are you seeing a pattern here? I just like how it does. It makes the kick like thud through the mix a little better. We're using a little bit of smack attack. It's just taming out a lot of this stuff. Were these even on? These might be like, this one might be interesting. There we go, taming double kick. This is actually on certain sections where the kick is going pretty quick. And like I said, like this is a more like final mixing technique when you have a lot of kick and you're just getting a lot of that low end. You don't really need that. So this is just being automated in, and it's kind of just getting rid of a lot of the gunk in the low end. So that's kind of cool. And that's why this is reading automation there. Snare. With nothing, it's already sounding pretty good. We're hearing some of the reverb there. And the parallel compression. Parallel compression is good for getting sustain out of it. So again, smash and grab here, which we are smashing quite a bit. Virtual mix rack here is doing nothing at all, so we can ignore that. There's not that much on the snare really. Some EQ, just getting the gunk out of the low end. Some smack attack, just basically a transient designer. That's got a little bit going on there. This is just to, you know, help with in the mix stuff, and just a little bit of the snare brightness. I think that's what I called that there. And then we have parallel compression coming courtesy of smash and grab here. This is in smash mode. That's the FET mode. Actually, a cool trick I found is you put one of these then in VCA mode after it. If you want to just really go nuts, put it in parallel. Just gives you even more of that sweet parallel compression. So I've started to double stack my parallel compressors, and I kind of like the effect you get. Better. Yeah, we could leave it like that. So there you go. Cool little trick. I've been through a lot of this stuff. Like basically put smash and grab on everything, you know, and just EQ. This is the toms. There's a lot of, I'm not doing them individually. I probably should be, but I was lazy. Overheads, again, we got smash and grab. Not too much reduction here. Just reeling it in a little bit of pumping on cymbals. A little bit of pumping on cymbals goes a long way. That's also why I'm feeding a little bit to the parallel compression bus there. But yeah, this is all pretty much stuff I've shown you guys in other videos. Smashing the rooms. Just a lot. You know what I'm actually kind of curious about now, because I haven't tried this, is if that would work for this too. Double stacking on this. Yeah, I think I've just discovered, like in front of you guys, a new move. Double stack for the is it on rooms I'm doing that? No, yeah, I'm doing it on rooms here. Sorry, this was selected. Yeah, on rooms, double stack the FET compressor, again in room mode, and then the VCA mode. Kind of sick. And then on the parallel compression, just double stack it there as well. Now we go FET and then VCA. I mean, we can flip it around and see if that's any good, but somehow I feel like interesting. Think I prefer it this way. More attack, less roomy. I think I prefer it that way. And then yeah, the parallel compression bus, as you can see. I do this decap bus, this decapitator bus. It's kind of weird. I just send stuff to just get crushed. Again, just always trying to soften the transients. A lot of the stuff I'm doing, you know, it gives you a lot of attack, and then you end up with transients you want to soften. So that's another way around it. So always, I'm using this for the reverb. This TC VSS3, which is pretty cool. I think it's a hefty and expensive thing. I was using QL spaces. Nolly loves verbiage. There are cheaper ways to get this done, but I kind of like this one. I always think of this as something that just helps the snare like bloom through the mix, through the guitars and everything like that. But yeah, like that's basically what's going on mix-wise there. Mainly what's going on the master bus, we'll just take a quick look, is just the general EQ. This is, as Nolly has shown me, just get this shape going, because that's generally what you want to hear. We've got the SSL. Aiming for -3, we're doing fast attack release. Threshold just set to where you're getting -3. And we're high pass filtering, so it ignores most of the kick. That's why the snare is making it react. You see? The kick's just a little bit. Then I've got this mid-side EQ, because mid-side is magic. I've got this crazy stereo EQ setting that Nolly sent me, which I like. Just more mid-side. And then we've got Pro L. I like Pro L better than Pro L2 for heavy stuff. I don't know why, but that's how all of that is said. Anyways, this video is going pretty long, but hey, it's been a little while, so I guess it's good that I showed you a whole bunch of stuff again. There are videos on the GGD page that go into a lot of this stuff in depth, whether it's the Frankenkit stuff or my drum mix, or if you don't have all these plugins, there's even one where I think I did all just stock Cubase plugins, so you don't feel like, oh, you have to buy all these other crazy plugins. However, if you do buy one, and I'm not just saying this, I mean, you can see this, I am using Smash and Grab on everything. And the other thing that I would highly recommend that you get, because this is what I use, this is I don't think I had Kali when I was first starting to mix this, so I used Zilla. But what I did, and this is one last little tip, we'll just sneak this in, this is guitar related. I reamped and captured these guitars with a load box, right? But it's gone into the computer without a cab sim, right? And the reason I'm doing that is so that then, if I want to, I could change this in real time. And I have one added layer of flexibility, because as you know, or may not know, the cab affects so much about the character of the guitar tone and how it sits in a mix. So you could end up with something that works, and then you could tweak it just off the cab stuff, and it could work really, really well, or completely differently, better, you know. It's good to have that extra level after you've reamped everything, you know that you like the way the amp sounds. So yeah, there's GGD Studio Cabs Zilla on everything here. Had Kali been out by the time I started mixing it, I probably would have been using that, because that stuff works like magic in the mix. I probably would need a lot less EQ, to be honest. The Zilla stuff feels great to jam on. It's awesome. It's incredibly versatile. But for metal in particular, it's amazing how Kali, you can just put it on and not really need to EQ really anything. It's kind of incredible. And one last tip is this master EQ switch. That's something that Nolly dialed in. That is just a cheat code right there. So just go ahead and activate that and then start EQing everything. But yeah, that's a lot of information. So anyways, I hope that this has been educational and useful. Thank you for sticking with me. It is now late and I'm gonna go to bed. I will catch you guys soon.